Telepen. So yeah, we're going to take a look at the self-service side of what we also provide at Telepen. Essentially it's going to be an overview look at the new self-service user interface that we have very recently released. We're again going to look at one of our other RFID products, the live scanning wand, and then we're going to take a look a bit at the new refreshed architecture that's for the self-service applications. So some of this might be totally new to you from Telepen. Some of you here are already self-service customers of ours. There might be a bit of background to this that you may not be aware of in terms of self-service, so I'd be very happy to chat to you about sort of a bit more background after the event. So this is really a bit of an update, kind of refreshing you as well.
Yeah, so maybe I understood what this is about, so I'm just going to go with the other session.
No problem at all. Yeah. So the new self-loan user interface. So basically, during lockdown, our partners at Epic Technologies, our developers, have been spending a lot of time creating a new self-loan user interface, really refreshing it, modernising it, and also bringing it in line with a sort of higher level of accessibility standards, the Web Content Access Guidelines standards. So we'll just take a look at some of the screens. So it's a totally different style of interface, and you can see here that it's got very clear icons, and different animations can be brought in or totally removed. It's really customizable, and it's really designed to hopefully for your library, so you can make it really part of your colour scheme, your branding, how you like to present your library. And also the design really is to make it as intuitive for your users as possible. Obviously the whole point of self-service is that people can use it themselves, hopefully without any sort of staff intervention. It obviously takes the burden off your staff members and those at your circulation desk. So the idea really is that they can use the kiosk for the functions that you allow them to, whether that's simply only borrowing items, maybe returning items, or whether you want to allow them access to view their account, whether you want to let them see if they've got any holds or reservations, whether they're available, and also some other features that are available from here. So we'll take a look at some of the screens as we go along and touch on some of the features. So we built on the software that was there before, essentially brought across all the functionality that was available in the previous functionality, and just refreshed it with a smoother user interface and a much more modern interface. So the things as you'd expect, you'll be able to log in using your student card, so whether that's using a traditional barcode, whether it's using the RFID card, or whether actually you allow the students to type in a PIN or the manual entry, that's available. We can also read the barcode if it's presented on a mobile phone. The barcode readers that we install on the kiosk are standard or 2D images, so they can read from a mobile phone. And also the readers, the RFID readers that we fit, can also read the NFC of the phone. So with the new Century Cloud app or other apps, I know there's others available on the Solus app, things like that, they can present the student card as an NFC token. And then the functions, as you'd expect, of a self-service kiosk, you're able to borrow, return if you allow that function. There'll be badge notifications, as you can see here. So when they initially log in, they can see on the view account there's a notification there to say, that might be that they've got 3 items overdue, or it might be that they've got 3 hold items that are now available. So it's sort of highlighting to your users that those elements are there. For those of you who are still taking fine payments, I know that does seem largely to be on the decline, particularly in academic libraries. And I don't know if that's an LMS split, or if it's an institution split, or if it's just too much hassle to take the fines, but it definitely does seem to be on the decline. But it's still available via the software here, and that can either be via coin and note, or chip and pin, or by credit account provider, that sort of thing. So borrowing items, Again, user intuitive. The idea is to reduce the amount of steps needed for the student to be able to borrow their items. So essentially, we only have to see their card when we need to see it. So for borrowing an item, we need to know who that person is so we can issue the items to that account. So to borrow an item, we need to scan their card, they scan their card, and it takes them to the next screen. Take to the next screen, they put the items onto the pad, and then it will show them a list of all the items that they're checking out. It'll give them various information that we can display to them at a point. We can show them obviously the due date that is returned or needs to be returned. If you have a due date, I know again some LMSs are completely doing away with due dates and it's just a rolling return. And it will show you obviously quite clearly in green that it's been a successful checkout. If they choose that they no longer want to have that on their account, they can hit on the screen to move it. If they have a problem, it flashes up quite clearly as well that the item hasn't correctly been checked out, and we're able to show them various reasons for that. So depending on what the reason is, like for instance the item is a reference-only item. You can also see that there's language options here as well, so you can hit that and it can bring up, I think we've got 36 different languages available at the moment, constantly adding new languages as they're required. I think they're working on Welsh at the moment. Which version of Welsh I don't know, because I'll find out actually there's more than one Welsh, which I think is a bit of a challenge, but we can do that. You'll be pleased to hear the pirate language has been brought across to included on the update. Yeah, so that essentially, it was a proof of concept, but essentially it translates all the language elements that you see on screen into the language that's been selected. So pirate language, I'm not going to do the impression, I'm afraid, but yeah, you can imagine every language element changes. It then, at the end of the transaction, or when somebody changes language, it reverts back to the primary language. So you're not, as a staff member, necessarily stuck in Japanese or Russian Cyrillics and wondering what's going on. It will revert back to English. The pirate language is usually the second most popular language in use after English. So, if you allow it to be used.
Do you know what? My IT team got rid of it.
Oh, no,
I know, I didn't know recently. The swamps. Bit of that.
Killed it. Yeah. So as mentioned, we can remove items direct from the borrow screen. This is actually new to this element of the software, being able to remove it at this point.
So when you've issued a book and it's already issued, and then you can remove it?
You can remove it and it'll take it from your account. Yeah, so you can, yeah, exactly, it'll return it back on to available. So, perhaps the students go along with a stack of books, some of which they are working with, and they might have accidentally picked up one that they only wanted to use in the library. They put it down and they realise, oh, actually I didn't want to issue that one. They can hit return or remove. That will take it off their account and issue it back out there. So it's then available, obviously, to somebody else. Yeah. Again, receipt options have been brought across. This is all configurable, so you can pick and choose which receipts you make available to your patrons, whether it's no receipt, whether it's a printed receipt, which again I think is largely or becoming less popular, or whether it's an email receipt. You can also just force an email receipt, so you can just say, actually, every time somebody uses a kiosk, we just always want to send them an email to say that, show the transaction that they've used. So you can essentially just do it with showing that screen, and it would just say an email's been sent to receive your transaction. And so, depending on the transaction that's occurred, that's obviously the receipt they'll get. So whether it's a check-out or a check-in, or if they've paid a fine or whatever it is, they'll get a receipt for that transaction. Again, so returning items. The animation can take you through. The animations are optional. You can turn those off, or you can adjust them. Puts the items on, returns them, gives you the tick that it's been returned, and then we can log out, move on to and get the receipt. And again, it'll show you the items that have been returned there, so it's very clear to the student that they've returned all the items, or if there's one missing, they can quite easily see which item it is that's missing. And again, we're making full use of the large screen, so items are listed. You can the box is actually resized dynamically. So if you've got Hulk Hogan who's turned up with 30 items in their bag and they're returning all of them, they can return all of them and it'll resize to a point, and then there'll be a scroll appear on the screen so they can move up and down the screen to look at all their items. Also on that screen, as you can see here, if there's a problem with a returned item, if for instance it was overdue, it can highlight at that point that they've not necessarily been able to return it, or that there's some action required for that item. Via the view account screen, so you can see here that we've got 3 items shown now, 3 notifications. So we can click on that, it can take us to this view account screen where we can show all the items that are on that account, and they can renew them. We can renew them individually. So they can renew from the screen. There's an option to renew all if they want to, and obviously it follows the LMS rules, so they're only allowed to renew what's around there that's available via the library management system. And similarly with on-hold items, so you can choose to make hold information or reservation information available to students. So that could be, they can view that they've got the reservations in place, and then it can also notify them that the reservation is now available for pickup. And you can have that as a splash screen, so when they first log in, it can make it really obvious that your reservation is available and where to go for that reservation. A new feature that's been added here is that they're also able to cancel reservations from this screen. I've been told that this isn't available from other LMS vendors at the moment. Don't know how true that is, strictly speaking. You may know more than me on this one. I've been told this isn't available from other vendors. Tom,
the reason I'm looking puzzled, I'm not sure I know what you need to say again. What's the
so if you say students placed a reservation or made a reservation for an item,
yes,
they're able to cancel the reservation from the self-service kiosk. So they go into the view holds section. They can say, right, actually, I don't want that reserved anymore. You can cancel the reservation. It will remove it from their account as a reservation and make it available back to obviously the borrower.
Right, okay. Certainly not something I'm aware of. It may exist in more modern systems than ours.
Exactly, yeah. So I wouldn't like to state my name, but it is totally only available, or only available to us. But as you can see, it automatically cancels it with the LMS, so it frees up that item to other borrowers. And in terms of user interface, I mentioned that it's obviously a total refresh of the user interface, and the screens are different. What it means is that the user interface theme is entirely configurable to suit your library. So you can change the colour scheme. You can see here also this is purple and different colours, and the text elements, you can change the colours of those. What you can also do is add particular themes for the time of year. So most recently we've had Halloween, so there was a Halloween theme that was released, and there's going to be other themes available. So there's a new one coming very shortly for Christmas, one planned for Easter, and suggestions for, I don't know whether Valentine's Day might be a theme that's of interest, but that sort of thing. And you can develop and create your own. So if you've got a library marketing team, or even some places have used as a student sort of project for graphical designers, that sort of thing, to bring that bit of theme across for the library. So that was the user interface, bit of a whistle-stop tour there. Any questions on that at all? I know we had some questions you went through. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, cool. So the user interface, could you just say a little bit about the process of testing? Have you done sort of user testing with students or with university staff? Or
yeah, both of those. So the software is actually developed in Australia by our partners, FE Technologies, and so they've completed the alpha and beta testing at, I think University of Sydney was involved mainly for the beta testing and the trials of that. It was a staged release. So initially they only released the core functions of borrow and return, that sort of thing, and then they've now reached the point where it's a full release. As I mentioned, it's currently going through the accreditation process for the Web Content Access Guidelines, which I can't remember whether it's AA, AAA, whichever one it is anyway. It's for that level of accessibility in text and all that sort of thing.
Good, thank you. A couple of other things. Is there an audio description mode?
There is indeed, yeah. So that makes use of the Windows audio description mode. So essentially, it will read out the text that's on screen. The self-service kiosk comes with the speakers as standard. To be honest, most libraries just turn those off. I mean, it'll turn the speakers off because they don't want the noise.
Help desks.
Exactly.
Quiet workspaces and stuff.
Yeah. But you can configure that separately for different kiosks depending on where they are in the building as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that, or should we move on? Okay, cool. So next thing, just a quick look at a change to the architecture actually of how we install the self-service and the RFID products that we provide. So previously it's all been locally hosted on your infrastructure. So there's been a server and a share folder set up. We've now, and that's required local installations of configuration, software, client applications, and being able to access the reports. It's now available to move that all to the cloud. So it completely does away with the need for the local infrastructure, and it's in progress to move away from the local configuration applications, so the management console to a degree. So we'll touch on that now. So it's a really major change actually to how the applications have been designed. It is entirely optional. I know network teams and IT departments have all their own views on how they want their networks to be structured and all that sort of thing, and so it is all entirely optional whether they would prefer to stick with the previous method or whether they move to this. For new installations, we'd be keen to encourage usage of this. It means that configuration changes and reporting capabilities are much easier for you to access, and also management from our point of view and support from our point of view is much easier. It's hosted in a secure Azure environment. For the UK, that's based in a London cloud environment. For Europe, it's an EU environment. And it includes a number of different performance improvements for the range of products that it interfaces with. So that's the self-service kiosks and a couple of the other things that we'll look at in a sec. And it includes the feature improvements, so things like the new user interface that's been able to come into being because of the architectural changes as well. Essentially, we've built on the Library Live platform, which has been around for a little while, and that's it's a live snapshot of the statistics of what's going on at your self-service kiosk. So things like how many issues and returns have taken place, whether any security alarms have been triggered, and which item it was that triggered those alarms. And so we've been able to further build on that platform to give access to historical reports and configuration elements via that web browser. So you can access certain elements via the web browser. So the screen here this is the traditional client application where all the configuration would have taken place, and so that's essentially moves to the cloud and access via the web browser.
That won't hold any user data. That's just config and general.
Yeah, so there's two separate databases. So there's a configuration database and a reporting database. The reporting database holds transactional information, it doesn't hold individual member data.
Because then that would be easier to get through IT to go ahead with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So another architecture diagram for you to take a look at after the ones this morning, and some of this obviously Probably won't mean a great deal to those of you who aren't self-service customers, but essentially it's showing that we've got cloud services, the Azure environment, which would traditionally have been your hosted environment, and you can see how the different library branches if you have more than one. And then the access to that means that you're able to get access to that anywhere with internet access and a web browser. And it's all communicated over standard HTTPS secure transactional connection, port 443, which is important, not 445, because that's not secure, as I learned last week, so don't get the numbers mixed up.
Barney, you know, for like granting access to the web interface, do you know are IP ranges necessary to specify in advance, or is that not? Do you know? There's
a couple of different things we probably have to work quite closely with you. It might be needing to work with the networks to allow IP ranges for the firewall, but also certain LMSs need IP addresses whitelisting as well. So we can work with you obviously on that, particularly if you're thinking about remote workers and what they're using to gain access, because I know obviously in the past 12 months that's become much more prevalent.
Also, lack of fixed desk spaces for staff, I think, has become much more common too. More kind of like touchdown spaces and things have become way more common.
Yeah. Essentially, that's only really going to be limited by your IT and the LMS, essentially, unfortunately. But we will work very closely with you to hopefully satisfy all of their concerns, requirements, and all that sort of thing. So, deployment of the Library Live or cloud application. So the first release did not include the schedule update function, and so essentially what that is being able to check online. You can see the top right here, check online for any updates. These come out every sort of 6 weeks or so, and it wasn't available in the light, or it's not available in this first initial release, so updates have to be managed manually. Early 2022, this will be added, and essentially that then makes it a fully cloud configurable system. So the screen on the right essentially is a snapshot of the web browser and access to the Library Live, so you can see some of the live statistics that are available. And how you can then choose whether you want to look at a daily report or specific branches or individual or across all of your branches, and then from this page you'll be able to access certain elements of the configuration as well. And as you can see, you can edit your language translation elements here as well and choose which languages are available.
So the gates control is still linked direct to the kiosk sort of thing?
Yeah, so the communication between the gates and the cloud still requires that gateway, which essentially we tend to use the nearest kiosk or terminal for it to communicate. So, and then scheduled for middle of next year are extensions to the reporting capability. So at the moment, there's sort of predefined reports that are available within Management Console. I think they pretty much capture the reports that libraries want and need, but we do realise that sometimes configuration of reports is particularly useful, so that's what we're going to be adding. So you'll be able to combine existing reports and adjust the parameters to see the data that you need to. And as I say, that'll be released middle of next year, or scheduled for then. So the next thing to take a look at then is the live scanning wand. This is actually a product that we'll take a look at now. Stock management device or inventory device. I mean, these have been around for quite a while now. I think a lot of people might know them as a DLA or an early 3M product, which I think unfortunately maybe did a little bit of a disservice to the inventory management world, because unfortunately when they first released, they weren't fantastic. This is probably about 15 or possibly even longer, 15 years or possibly longer ago. So unfortunately, I think people got them, used them, either couldn't get them to work, found them a bit clunky, put them in the corner of the office and forgotten about them, and then that's kind of lingered a bit about how difficult to use they were. The live scanning wand is a replacement for that. It's, I mean, I'm going to tell you that it's much better, but obviously I'm going to tell you that. You're welcome to have a go with it in a moment and have a play and ask any questions. Essentially, the difference with the live scanning one is the live element. So what that means is it communicates live with your library management system. You don't need to sync files from your library management system to the device hardwired by your computer. You can turn the tablet on, connect to your LMS, choose the application or the stock take function that you want to do, and away you go, start scanning the shelves. So, for instance, you might want to use it potentially for looking for missing items. So you can essentially you flag missing items in your LMS, and then you go along with the wand, scan the shelf, and it will flag up missing items. When you then find a missing item, or the wand alerts you to a missing item, you can, using the screen here, you'll see it's flagged up potentially that with an error there that it's got an exception, it's a missing item. You tap on the screen of the tablet, and it will give you the options then. So, for instance, with a missing item, you just found that item, you know it's no longer missing. You don't then need to remove it from the shelf, put it on your trolley and take it away for any other, to do anything else with the LMS. You can do it live from the tablet. You can tap on the screen and you can check it straight in. So then that will automatically, in real time, update the LMS to say the item is no longer missing, it's on the shelf, and it's now available for borrowing. Likewise, things like lost items, essentially whatever circulation status code is available from SIP2, we can flag onto the tablet. So as you're going along and scanning the shelf, anything without an exception will pop up in blue. It will show you all the items. Obviously, as you're going along, there might be, I don't know, a few hundred thousands, millions of items. The blue items that have no exceptions on them, they're no interest to you, so after a couple of seconds they'll drop off the screen and you'll just be left with any exception items. You can choose which exceptions you're looking for at any one point. It might be that you want to just look for all exceptions, or you might want to pinpoint and say I'm looking for missing items or lost items or specific items. And you can also use it for looking for out-of-place items. So obviously, presumably in your library you've got certain areas designated to help you with shelving. You can set up different profiles. So today you might say, right, I'm going to the open shelves. You tell the tablet that you're in the open shelves area, go on and scan the shelf, and it will flag up any items that are not flagged as being in that area, so you can obviously remove them from the shelf and reshelve them accordingly. It's designed to be as intuitive as possible, so as you say, minimal training required. So there's a lightweight Bluetooth wand and a tablet. The application, as you can see, it's colour coded. It shows the information that's presentable or available from the LMS, and it's all point and click and very clear. So hopefully very
iOS, Android.
It's Android only, but it comes with the tablet that you need to run it on. Currently it's supplied with Samsung Galaxy Tab A, but it will be developed, as tablets in a couple of years. It'll probably be a different tablet, but it will continue to work with the Androids. And I haven't tested this myself, but it does say 18,000 items per hour. I mean, that sounds like you're going at it, something to go at the shelf. But essentially I think that's more talking about the battery life, actually, that you can use it for an extended period of time throughout the day, and batteries do that. You don't necessarily need to employ Usain Bolt to do your stock checking for 18,000 items per hour. Yeah, so as I mentioned here, you can see that you can click on an item, it can pop up with some more information about the item that's got an exception. So for instance here is shown as not hold, so you could be going along looking for any reservation items, pick them out, take them to the reservation status. Or you could say, actually, we want to cancel that reservation, and you just check it at that point. Or you can just acknowledge the error and then that will remove from the screen. To improve or to help further with the intuitive aspect of it, you can adjust the colour codes or change the colour codes for any of the reservations. So rather than having every single exception shown in red, you could say women items want to be red, missing items want to be orange, something else in purple, magenta, duck egg blue, all that sort of thing as you go along, kind of depending on the Dulux or the variable paint chart that you might want to work from. Any questions on the wand? Would anybody like to? We have got, famous last words, we've got a working live demo here if anybody would like to have a go.
So just on the stock take thing, you can go along the shelf and it will create a file still of everything on that shelf.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can still use it in a sort of traditional sense of a stock take device as well. So you can go along every single shelf and it will log it to a CSV file that you can then still retrieve from the tablet and
vice versa. Can you give it a list to look for?
absolutely,
That's
yeah.
not differently flagged as exceptions. It's just.
Now you can configure your own list and add that in as well. So you can put any reason in there effectively. You might want to look for either a specific item or...
I'm thinking of withdrawals or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's actually the reason why I went to university tomorrow. They're having a major weeding process. I think they're amalgamating a number of libraries into one. So they're looking for specific items that are going to be removed from the collection and sent off.
I don't think you've touched on this, but apologies if you have. A perennial problem that we have is in measuring what we call, or what our LMS calls, in-house use. So usage of library resources without loans. Would it be possible to actually use these to, and I'm not suggesting we necessarily would, but it's just kind of occurred to me now, to use them, say, to pass over some items on a table or on a trolley and actually almost behave like a self-check on the fly to return items?
Good question. And possibly. I mean, in sort of theoretically, yes. Whether it's sort of that feature sort of exists at the moment, I'm not
May
totally sure. Yeah, Kevin, please do.
Yeah, it can update a field in the LMS. It can update a date field in the LMS, such as stock take date.
Last seen,
You could then use that as your tool to identify whether you scan the item or
Of course it is, yeah.
an LMS report.
It's not as though we really need to return the items. It's that we need to know what was where and when. So yeah, that would do the job, you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure this would necessarily be the right tool for the job, but I haven't found one that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Just library staff walking around, just tables, just going that across the library.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, libraries have found different applications for this. As I say, it's intended as or designed as an inventory management device, but I know here at Nottingham you use it for your returns process, where you've essentially done away with offering on the self-check kiosk the option for sorted returns, because unfortunately students don't always like to follow instructions about which item needs to go left or right and that sort of thing.
That's exactly what I would use it for.
Yeah, so all items just go onto a trolley, and then a member of staff scans the trolley, whips out the book. Obviously there's a reservation or an exception, and the others go off for reshelving and that sort of thing. So there's multiple ways of more applications.
Yes, we've got one on campus where they don't trust that, so they take all of the books that have been returned and run it back through on the desk. It drives me mad.
Duplication of process.
Yeah, this would be great.
That's what we found as well. It was, a few of the sites would re-return everything.
Yeah.
And just put that away.
But do they still do that even though you've now got that's the thing, trying to change modes of operation.
It would enable that process to be a lot more footloose though. That's definitely a consideration.
What do you mean, Tom?
To not have to be fixed to a particular location for return, so staff not having to move items around the building multiple times.
Oh, I see.
So, for example, to take, from say like a return bin to a particular room, that's say like back from student spaces, and then bring them back out and reshelve and stuff.
Yeah, that's flexibility there. I don't know whether do you have more problems, Adam, with students cottoned on that they don't necessarily need to return the kiosk, they can just leave it and it get returned. I guess people are keen on having it off their account.
Yeah, no, most of them still return, but as you say, I think there's always a few loopholes and people who do the wrong thing, but
people will find a loophole if there's guaranteed.
Yeah, we've got these at every site at the moment.
Yeah, across your 7 libraries. Yeah.
How long for?
When we
2019.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, they were new to market in 2019. The live scanning one, so relatively new in terms of life cycle product, and it's still being developed and added to as it goes along.
And it works fine?
yeah,
Software crashes?
Pretty
How much?
How much to you? they're roughly, I think, just over 3,000.
Sorry, I was the figure on the spot there.
No, that's okay. Round about there. And as I say, so it includes all the everything that you need to be able to do it. You don't need to be a self-service kiosk user of ours either. They can be added onto your existing sort of, or just used independently. So you've got the tablet, the wands, all the battery chargers, and the funky Tomorrow's World case as well that keeps it all together.
And annual maintenance contract as well.
Yes, there is an annual maintenance. On the top of my head, I don't know what that is.
That's fine.
But yeah, and that means obviously that you continue to get the software updates and all that sort of thing as they come along. Yeah. So we've got the lightweight Bluetooth wand, and we've got the tablet. So there's an on-off switch on the back of the wand, so you can obviously save battery and turn it on, and it beeps, let you know, and it connects. And on the tablet, you've got some indicators on the top left. So we've got SIP2 connected, which means we're connected live to the LMS, and we've got RFID connected, that means the wand is connected to the tablet. So the wand is connected by Bluetooth, and then the tablet via Wi-Fi to your library management system. Obviously that does mean that you need to have good Wi-Fi coverage around your library to be able to use it. A further update is on its way to enable offline usage of this, so that you'll be able to use it without Wi-Fi, and it will update past the event. So essentially all we do is click on stock take in the middle, and it tells you to start scanning for items. And you just go to the shelf. It's designed to be ergonomic and easy to use, so you don't necessarily need to hold it sort of awkward angle 90 degrees to the shelf and that sort of thing. You should be able to go along. If you've got a low shelf, all the way along. It's got a long handle on it, so anybody who's shorter can hopefully reach the shelves. And you can welcome to have it, pass it around a bit. It's lightweight, but it's not a bit of too much of a workout as you go around. So yeah. Start scanning items. If I stop talking, start scanning items, and we go along with my makeshift portable library here, and you can hear it clicking. You can turn the sound off, but the clicking just tells you that it's picked up an RFID tag. And then, so we can see here the items in blue, they've got no exception on, so it's just they're there and we can see them. And then the items in red are exception items, and it tells me that AKA Sheila Doyle is an incorrect located item, so that's in the wrong area, so we can pick that off the shelf and obviously re-shelve it. And then Daddy's Girls is in there, by Tasmina Perry, is on loan. It's clearly not on loan because it's on my shelf, so from here I can just tap onto there if I don't pull up the screen. There we go. It pops up with the information. It's showing on loan, but it's clearly not, it's on my shelf, so I can just choose to check that straight in there. Checking success, that will automatically check it in at the library management system, and it's now back available for borrowing by others. If I'm unsure whether I've managed to scan every single item, there are certain limitations with RFID. It doesn't always pick everything up first time. I can simply re-scan the shelf. If it's missed any, it will show those missing items on here. It won't just re-scan the entire shelf throughout. But now if I come back out of this and start a new scanning session, hopefully I will show you that the item I just checked in is no longer shown as another. There we go. So let's just think about it. And yeah, Daddy's Girl is now shown as checked in at the library, and it's available for them.
So in terms of the configuration, does it act like a circulation desk in the LMS then? Is that how it works?
We specifically for Alma, the way we configure it, or the Alma end is a self-loan kiosk.
Okay.
For user profiles.
Yeah,
in sense.
yeah. That makes sense.
Slightly differently for LMSs. So there are some other secondary features to add. As Adam rightly mentioned, you can add offline files to it, so you can simply just click on Find Items and import the CSV. So you can that can be something you download from the LMS, or you can create your own file, or you can add items directly onto here. Just type in the barcode number you're looking for and the reason. and the other function that gets talked about a bit, possibly sounds more exciting than what it is, but the security blasting function sounds a bit Ghostbusters, but essentially you can use the wand to make sure that all the items on your shelf are set to the right security status. So if you're unsure that items have been checked incorrectly, or your shelf ready stock might not necessarily have always come secured, you can go along using the wand, go along and blast the shelf, blast to your heart's content, and everything will be secured, and so you know that then any items are.
Can that work in both directions as well? So
You can also unsecure items, yeah, exactly. So again, for instance, if you're reading and you're sending items off to a reseller or whatever they go to, you can deactivate the security of the tab in that way as well. I've seen that done with, the items already in a box and you just kind of waft the wand around the box and deactivates the security.
And is that configurable as per like different security protocols then?
Yeah, as per tag type and the AFI value. So,
Oh, great.
yeah, exactly.
So how long is it hold its charge for? Assuming I was using it for a long period of time.
So you get 2 sets of rechargeable batteries, and I think, I will double check this, but I think, is it about 8 hours for usage?
I would have said 8 hours.
I think 8 hours. I think it's designed essentially for a working day, if you're going to set people going. But I can double check that.
Sounds alright. Yeah. You said 20 minutes, I feel.
Yeah. Would anybody like a go, or I'm happy to pass the wand round, or
I'll pass it around. Does it come in different colours?
It,
I can imagine my arts campus not being so happy with the greys.
we can do it in a vinyl wrap. We're looking to partner with Chanel or somewhere for a leopard print or that sort of thing. So, yeah. The wand will beep at you as well if it loses connection. So if you finish, if you hear beeping in the corner of your office, it's probably the one telling you that it's still on and you're not using it anymore. So hopefully to conserve battery and that sort of thing.
What does the button here do?
That's just an LED indicator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that just.
Put on the side.
Little button
Resets RFID.
Oh, so
Ah, right, okay. That makes sense.
Tries to connect again. And it pairs with a specific tablet, doesn't it?
yeah, so if you've got a number of,
Pair.
so for instance Nottingham where you've got 10 or 11 of these, keep the tablet and the wand together because it's connected over Bluetooth. So if you turn up and you've got a wand from that device and a tablet from there, they're not going to talk to each other. But you can reconfigure it to move them around. I normally get asked the weight of the wand, and I still don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm glad you know. But hopefully you'll agree it's not too cumbersome.
That's better than the old DLA with battery on it.
Yeah. And a laptop on the trolley.
Is there an option for a wrist lanyard? I can't see a loop on it.
Not on, this is quite an old model actually of this, but I think the newer models are looking to have a sort of loop at the bottom to be able to have a lanyard for that. Also to mention, the tablet comes with a tablet holder as well, so you can connect the tablet holder to your trolley and the tablet can just sit on there, because then you've obviously got one hand on the wand and a hand free to use the shell, so that's cool. Right, I think, unless there's any other questions, I think that brings us to the end of the breakout session.